Chapter 12, Grabelon 4. The story of Delbert Hohummer III is not like the rest of the story you've heard. Delbert had come from a faraway place. In fact, he belonged to an alien race. He came from a place called Grabelon 4, a planet well known as a bit of a bore. It was smaller in size than even the Earth. It had nothing of Jupiter's generous girth, and nothing like Saturn's magnificent rings. It had none of those wondrously singular things. This was a planet where day after day the weather was always the rainiest gray, and not only the sky but the sea and the land, everything gray and stupendously bland. Why, even the people were grayer than gray, as if all of their color had faded away. They had built up their planet with cities and lanes traveled by Gralian trolleys and trains, from Gralian houses to Gralian shops, while traffic was guided by Gralian cops. Most of them toiled at monotonous jobs, manufacturing gadgets and thingamabobs. In the evening, they drove along Gralian roads to the uniform gray of their boring abodes, and then climbing into their Gralian beds with Gralian reveries filling their heads, the Gralian people would finish the day with dreams that, of course, were entirely gray. Think of counting the granules of sand on a beach, or imagine a lengthy political speech. Just think of the utmost deplorable bore. That's 10 times as thrilling as Grabelon 4. But why, you may ask, was it lacking in spice? Like, wouldn't a little excitement be nice? As with much of this story, the answer is found by digging a bit, looking under the ground. Because under the surface of Grabelon 4, there was little to look at, even less to explore. It wasn't like Earth, full of boulders and stones and minerals, metals, and dinosaur bones. Inside of this planet was hollow and bare, like a ball that was filled with unusual air. But the air wasn't air. It was more of a mist. It quietly wafted and billowed and hissed. It would sluggishly swirl. It would languidly teem. And the name of this vapor was tedium steam. It was dreary and almost invisibly pale. It rolled and it flowed at the pace of a snail. It curdled and churned in swishes and swarms. It was boredom, you see, in its purest of forms. Now, before you begin to protest or object, believe me, good reader, my facts have been checked. It may strike you as weird, and I know how you feel, but tedium steam, I assure you, is real. It's also on Earth. Yes, we've got it too. No ifs, ands, or buts. What I'm saying is true. It's produced as a residue deep in the brain in people whose lives are indelibly plain. You'll find it near braggarts and prattlers and snobs or people with overpaid clerical jobs. It clouds around people with limited views and salesmen with products that no one can use. It builds up in such people till, over the years, there's so much of the stuff it leaks out of their ears. And not only from people, but places as well. There's a great many places the vapor can dwell. All around the TV, it's especially thick, which is why a TV can make some people sick. It can also be found in the emptiest nooks of bookshelves that no longer have any books. While this tedium steam, for whatever it's worth, is not really noticed down here on the Earth, up on Grabelon 4, the stuff is like gold. It was mined from the ground. It was traded and sold. In fact, it was used as an energy source to power their trains and their buses, of course. All that tedium steam through the night and the day kept everything moving in every which way. There were steam-powered toasters and steam-powered drills. There were steam-powered factories, steam-powered mills. There were steam-powered houses and steam-powered cars and steam-powered everything under the stars. And so, over time, it would certainly seem that Grabelon 4 would run out of steam. The politicians, you see, had stiffly decreed, "There's a ton of the stuff, even more than we need." "There's more," they declared, "than at first it appears. There's enough to last upwards of billions of years." So all of the people on Grabelon 4 built factories, houses, and buses galore, because everyone thought, without even a doubt, that their tedium steam would never run out. Politicians, however, are commonly wrong, and the tedium steam didn't last very long. Where once the whole planet had more than enough, there soon was a worrying lack of the stuff. So the Gralians gathered on Parliament Hill. Some were shaking their fists, some were solemn and still. "Prime Minister, sir," the Gralians cried, "you said we had tons, but we haven't. You lied." Unmoved, the Prime Minister uttered a snort. In his mind, he was planning a pithy retort. But before he could speak, he was rather amazed to hear someone's voice being suddenly raised. "Wait," said a voice. "Please, hold on a sec. Our situation is grim. It's a bit of a wreck. But here's what I'm thinking. If we've got the guts, then I've got an idea, and it might save our butts." The Prime Minister, startled, looked over the crowd. He adjusted his glasses and shouted aloud, "Who said that? Where are you? Which one of you spoke? I certainly hope you weren't making a joke." You see, telling a joke or pulling a prank on Grabelon 4 was like robbing a bank. If you said to a stranger, "Knock, knock," or "Who's there?" you'd be dragged off to jail by the roots of your hair. "Oh, no," said the voice, sounding suddenly small. "It wasn't a joke. No, not at all. I was telling the truth. I've thought of a way to keep everything working and perfectly gray." The Prime Minister paused. He squinted. He stared. He was old after all, and his sight was impaired. "Well, whoever you are, before making your claim, you first must come out. You must tell us your name." The crowd moved aside. It was parted in two, and the stranger came forward. He pushed himself through. He stood on his toes to be better heard. "I'm Dolbert," he said, "Ho-Hummer the Third." And that ends chapter 12.